verse 29, Ulladhu naarpadhu anubandam, supplement to 40 verses on reality, given by Sri Ramana Maharshi. தத்துவம் கண்டவர்க்கு தாமே வளரும் ஒளிபுத்தி வலுவும் வசந்தம் போந்ததுமே இத்தரையில் தாறு அழகாதி சகல குணங்களும் சேர விளங்கல் என தேர். Now, we have been talking about self-inquiry, we have been talking about upasana, all the efforts towards self-realization. What happens at the end of self-realization? Shiv Bhagavan gives us a sort of temptation, so to say, a bait. He says, Tattvam Gandavarku Tame Valarum Oli Buddhi Valuvum. One who has realized his true nature, to him it will automatically grow. What? Oli. Oli means, light. Light in the sense, we can call it the highest capability, highest knowledge. Oli, Buddhi, the highest intellect. And Valu, strength. தத்துவம் கண்டவருக்கு தாமே வளரும் ஒளிபுத்தி வலுவும் வசந்தம் போந்ததுமே இத்தரையில் தாறு அழகாதி சகல குணங்களும் சேர விளங்கல் என தேர். When autumn comes, all the trees shed their leaves and they look barren. And when spring comes, they just flourish. You can see abundance of leaves, abundance of colorful flowers, and so on. He says this is what, like how trees acquire upon the arrival of spring a kind of flourishing. A person who endeavors to know himself, once he knows himself, he'll bloom like those trees with light, with the highest intellectual power and capability. This is of course, we should not, again have sankalpa, desires to acquire powers, etc. See, if we are genuine, if we really follow the teachings of the Guru, as he says, upon the annihilation of ego, jnana dance. That's what he says. Unequivocally he says, Bhagavan in Talks book and other things. ஊனார் உடல் இதுவே நானாம் நினைவே நானா நினைவுகள் சேர் ஓர்னார் எனுமதனால் நான் யார் இடமது என உட்போனால் நினைவுகள் போய் நான் என குகையில் தானாய் திகழும் ஆன்ம ஞானமே. He says, the many thoughts, the many memories have strung themselves into a thick rope. And once we inquire as to the origin of this rope, he says it will topple down, their Atma will shine forth automatically. This is the message, fundamental message, that ego, the I thought, keeps surfacing without our permission, and it persists throughout the three states of waking, dreaming and deep sleep. In the deep sleep state, although the mind is not active, I thought is not active, it remains potential. It is like a seed. It remains, because upon waking up, it surfaces, it brings about all the various thoughts to us. And once we realize ourselves, once this ego subsides, he says certain things happen. You will bloom. But a question might arise, who will be there to enjoy this blooming? Because the ego is already dead. So Bhagavan says, till jnana dawns, certain things cannot be understood. So let us keep it in reserve. Okay, the Guru's words are Guru's words. Let us do our due diligence. That is what we can do. That is the approach I think we need to take when we study such things. In Talks book he says, since the jnani remains in his essential nature, which means without thoughts, he is in stillness. Since he remains in his essential nature, he can call up any force, he says, and press it into action. And it is said that to a jnani, all the demigods will come and serve his needs. I mean, so long as the body remains, so long as prarabdha remains. He says in many places in Atma Bodham and Devi Galotaram, Atma Sakshatkara Prakaranam, that once a person acquires jnana, once jnana dawns, he will be omnipresent, he will be omnipotent, he will be omniscient. He says that. யாவும் அறிந்தோனாய் எங்கும் நிறைந்து ஆர் அமிர்தன் ஆவன் எனவே அறி. He says, which means எங்கும் நிறைந்தோனாய். He pervades the entire universe, everywhere. There is not a place where he is not. Yavu marindona yengum niraindu, and he knows everything. Sri Bhagavan, once a lady came from America, she said, Bhagavan, you are talking so high of this mountain, Arunachala mountain. What about our country, America? Is there such a mountain there? I believe Bhagavan closed his eyes and mentioned mentioned the name of a mountain in America. He had never traveled, I think, beyond 13 kilometers of radius from Tiruvannamalai. So this is what it is. Atma or Brahman is formless, and hence it has to be all pervasive. And the insight that we get is that he not only Brahman pervades everything, the entire universe, and it powers the entire universe, so to say, and makes everything in the universe function the way it does. Human beings to stones to stars, it makes them function the way they do, and yet remains untouched. And that is impermanent. The physical order that is projected by the consciousness by Brahman is impermanent. It is subject to birth and death. That is the fundamental discrimination that Shankara taught. What is impermanent? What is permanent? As Brahman, as formless, we cannot die. Only the form can die. Form can age. Formless Atma cannot, die, because it was never born, it will never die. That is what you are, he says. Adu nee endru ammarigal aarthidavum, he says. And naanenum sorpurlamadu naalume, which means, you utter the word I. He is asking Bhagavan. You know the meaning of the word, he says. It doesn't refer to the body. That is error. That is ignorance. That is Maya. That is Chitjada Granthi, the knot between the sentient and the insentient. So, as Brahman, we are formless, and once we realize our formless nature, not that the body will disappear, not that the I thought will completely disappear. Vasanakshayam, destruction of vasanas, is that it becomes feeble. A jnani will experience both Brahman and body also. But the body, mind, is like the powerless moon in the daytime light, in the sunlight. Both are present. The sunlight and the moonlight are present. The mind will be, the ego will be like the moonlight. It will be powerless. It need not shine, because there is something else already shining bright. When the sun is shining, do we need a moonlight to see the sun? No. That is how the inner experience of realization will be. That's what he says. And in another place, Sri Ramakrishna says that it will be like a burnt rope. The ego will be like a burnt rope. So there is such a thing as realization, and we are identified with the body. If we inquire, if we do vicharam continuously and make the mind still, Bhagavan would often quote the Bible, be still and know that I am God. So, all the difference is made by this stillness of the mind, because the mind is wavered. It is a rascal kind of a person who wouldn't listen at all. He keeps throwing up thoughts to our awareness constantly. Although we say I don't want anything in the universe. I don't want even an atom from the universe. Even if you take such a stand, it throws thought into your awareness. It just, it keeps sending. Thoughts keep sprouting. Like mushrooms in the rainy season, they keep sprouting. The fight is all about becoming aware of our ego. Okay, all thoughts form what is called ego, and which is the birthplace of this ego. To seek the source of ego is all that Sri Bhagavan taught. And it's a slow process, because he has himself said, Veedu vittu irthu un veedu pukku paiya un veedu kaattinai Arunachala. He says, you drew me from Madurai, you made me enter your house, which means grace, and slowly you revealed the truth. So we need to be patient. We cannot acquire jnanam the way we acquire a degree in the university. That is not possible. So when we do vicharam, we bloom, he says, like the spring season trees and plants, how they flourish and bloom, you'll bloom. That's what he says. This is a hope. Because sometimes we get tired. In another place he says, Sandadam salippara sandoshamagave appalamittu par. He says, when you do vicharam, don't get tired, don't give up, don't become despondent, he says. Have the hope, happily do vicharam, he says. Because in another place he says, genuine efforts will never go waste. Success is bound to happen, which means you will realize your true nature because that is what you already are, always. This mixing up of the body and the spirit is the culprit. Chit Jala Granthi. It will go. It has to go. It takes some time. So this attitude is very, very important. Once we do vicharam, he gives milestones. You start experiencing bodilessness, he says. Endoruvan deha milanagave tannai tan ஞான கண்ணினால் தான் காண்பன், he says. With your jnana eye, with the eyes of wisdom or realization, you will see that you don't have a body. Then he says, nirprapanjate nilai, be established in non-universe. Prapanjam illon nan pin, I am one who does not have the universe at all. This is the conclusion. And another place he says, nilalpadi tagattin vinmani olipada nilalpadiyumo, which means if you expose the camera to the full bright sunlight, no image will be born. No image will be registered there. So, if we get jnanam, what remains is only jnanam. The screen of awareness, existence, consciousness, bliss alone remains, and no experience of body, mind or the universe. This is the conclusion. This is what is meant by snake in the rope. Because of Maya, because of body identification, we experience the body and hence we experience the whole world as separate entities in the world. Once realization dawns, he says, oneness alone will be there. There will not be even difference between Ramana Maharshi or Shankara or any other Rishi. One only exists there. Undifferentiated state it is. And in Dakshinamurti Stotram, he says, Jnana nilayiru neram tannai oruvana evan ner kanban. When realization dawns, you will see yourself as the only one stuff or thing existing. That's all. This is the conclusion. In another place he says, Ondranathan yellamayulladai tan ஞானக்கண்ணினால் தான் காண்பன். Having realized his true nature, he will see that he is the one who is pervading the entire universe. How can this body pervade? No, he is not talking about the body. That bodiless, that formless, infinite consciousness, you will experience yourself as that, and it's quite natural. When it is formless, it can pervade. It can be pervade everything. It can be infinite. There is no confusion at all. So, Tattuvam Gandavarku Tame Valarum Oli Buddhi Valavum Vasandam Vondadume Ittarayil Tharu Alagadi Sagala Gunangalum Sera Vilangalena There. So, with this in mind, that upon realization, right now who you are, an individual will get jnanam and then you will bloom like the spring season trees and plants. Full bloom with flowers, fragrant flowers. Which means you will have omniscience, omnipresence and omnipotence. That is the final state. That is our natural state, he says. It is not something, to acquire. It is already there. Remove the veil of ignorance, he says, and know your true nature. For that, we need to continue vicharam. Let us think about it.